Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Enter the Scottyverse Interviews. Today, I am joined by the lovely AnnElise. She is 21 and basically a world traveler, in my opinion, and that's what we're going to talk about on top of where she's from, her current job, and the places she's been. So, AnnElise, thank you for being on the show.
I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm so happy you said yes to this, and you're currently the youngest guest I've had, so...
Sweet, how exciting.
Somebody else is gunning for it, but we'll see if that one pans out. So yeah, just real quickly, give us a rundown of where you're from in the States originally.
So I'm from Idaho originally, southeast to be specific, if anyone's ever been over there. Looking at like the Shelley Firth area, so that's between Idaho Falls and Pocatello, just small farming towns, not too much happening there.
So, is it true that you make better potatoes than anybody else in the nation?
Yes.
Okay,
Where
so
else do you get potatoes from?
do you have a signature potato dish?
I don't even know. Potatoes are in everything.
Or is it you just look at a potato and it's instantly better because you're from Idaho?
That is honestly like one of the perks of like when I'm traveling, like going into like a restaurant and you see like Idaho potatoes, or like going to the store and like, hey, that's right down the road. So yeah, it's pretty much the only defining thing about Idaho. So when I'm not there, it's nice to see a potato and it's like, all right.
Ah, home. Okay.
True.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Georgia, we have peaches and peanuts, so, and Jimmy Carter, but we don't talk about that one. All right, so you grew up in Idaho. You left Idaho right at 18, correct?
Yeah, so I think it was probably the summer after graduation. Well, right after graduation, I actually left and hung out with my aunt's family for a month. But then I moved out of Idaho the year after graduation. So before my 19th birthday, it would have been beginning of April. I had my birthday in the end of April. So 2018, I left, moved to Atlanta for 6 months, and then never really permanently moved back from there.
Got it. So was Atlanta just, because I know we're going to get into your job in a minute, but is that just where the job took you? Were you kind of looking for the big city? Because you said there's nothing in Idaho. So were you just excited to get as far away from Idaho as possible, or what drove that decision?
Both. So the biggest thing I liked about the job was that I could move away from Idaho. I didn't know in the beginning that I'd be going to Atlanta though. So I ended up getting a choice. I could go to Dallas or I could go to Atlanta. And at that point I was all in for Atlanta. You know, The Walking Dead started there. I'd never been to Georgia, so moved there, and it's still like my favorite city in the States.
Well, you did good by not going to Dallas. I've been there plenty of times. It's not terrible, but Atlanta is much better than Dallas.
There's something super exciting about Dallas, but I haven't spent enough time there to appreciate it.
Okay. So you got this job at 18, and tell us a little bit about what the job was that you landed.
So it's actually a sales job. I had a friend I went to school with in high school, and he was just posting all over his Snapchat about how he was traveling. I was like, dude, how are you doing this? Like, no one does that from here. And so I hit him up, and he was like, oh, it's really hard. Like, you probably couldn't do it. And I was like, thinking, like, there's nothing super remarkable about this kid. You know, we're the same age. Like, he's a cool kid for sure, but it's not like he was valedictorian or anything crazy. So I, like, kept hitting on it. I was like, dude, like, how do I apply? How do I get an interview? And eventually he, like, sent me the application, and I applied and got interviewed and got the job. And then from there, I was just, so it's solely commission-based. So I was like, okay, this has to work, or I'm like back at square one, and I have to move back to Idaho and probably just with my parents, and that was not an option. Did not want to do that.
Exactly, yeah.
I was like, all right, leap of faith. We're moving to Atlanta, and this is going to work.
Okay. So can you talk about what your job is? Do you want to talk about what your job is?
I'll go into it a little bit.
Okay.
So I do door-to-door sales for Vivint Smart Home. So it's like a smart home, a tech company, an alarm where you control everything in the house from your phone. So the coldest calling sales you can get.
Yeah.
So you have to learn everything. I had no experience in sales. I was working at IHOP before it.
So you went from peddling pancakes to peddling, and in 2018, the whole home security wireless from your phone was I think it was brand new in 2018, right? It was still very.
It was brand new a couple years before, but it was
Okay.
still like breaking into the market and everything. You
So
see a lot more competitor products now than you did a couple years ago, for sure.
yeah, because I mean, you've had Brinks around for years. Everybody's been wired to home security for so long. So
Yeah.
you took this massive leap of faith to go out door-to-door salesman, a young 18, 19-year-old girl in Atlanta selling home security systems that nobody's really heard of.
Yep. And on top of it, I was the only girl. Like,
Yeah.
it's a male-dominated company, but in the office, I was the only girl. I mean, in the company, they'd always like show us like the store scorecards and stuff, and there was one girl in the entire company on it. So
Yeah.
extremely male-dominated. And I mean, at one time, all the managers had bets on how long I would last because it's just not something that girls ever had broken into.
And you're still with the company today, right? So it's been 3 years?
It's been 3 years, and I'm still here. I'm actually out in Baton Rouge, Louisiana right now.
Exactly. And that's just one of the things that's just so encouraging to me is you took this job, I got to get out of Idaho. Atlanta sounds great. This is make or break. And you ran with it in a male dominated field. And you've excelled from everything I've seen and heard.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know how much pressure was put on by them and how much I just put on because of them. Where it was just like, okay, I feel like I have to work twice as hard to make my mark, make an impact, and prove that I not only can I be here, but I deserve to be, and just to break into the space.
So you get to Atlanta, you start doing it, you find your groove, and you start making money. And then, time out. What are you drinking? Since I saw your drink for the first time during the con. What is it today?
Rosé.
Little rosé. Is it cheap or expensive rosé?
It's cheap.
There you go. Cheap rosé is the drink of the day. I'm still on Yingling, everybody.
I pick some up actually, but
I bought 22 cases before I moved out here.
better safe than sorry. Way to be prepared.
I've been in quarantine for 14 days. I'm not going to say how many cases I have left, but it's not 22.
I'm surprised you have any left. 14 days.
Yeah. My mother's going to love that part. She harps on me about drinking too much. Anyways, I digress. Back to the story. So you start making money, and then, I follow you on Instagram, and I start seeing AnnElise's somewhere else in the world. I was like, what the heck is she doing somewhere else in the world? So what is it that made you want to, well, first of all, when was the first time you left America? Was it our trip?
Yes.
Okay.
So my first trip out of the States was after my junior year, before my senior year. I went to Guatemala with my mom, and then there's a church group that you were actually there for. So we went there and worked in a girls' home for a bit, helped build a boys' transitional home, and it was super, super cool and really eye-opening to just how people live and thrive in other parts of the world. So that really fueled my passion for traveling. But after my first summer, I went and spent a month in Zimbabwe on an animal reserve.
Yes.
So that is actually a really, really funny story for how I got into that. So before my first summer, we actually went on a family road trip. My family never really did road trips before, so it was a pretty big deal. We went and saw the Grand Canyon, went to the Hoover Dam, and we may have gone to Vegas.
Let me pause you real quick before we go too far into this. So your family, without giving away too much, you have, my camera's messed up. There we go, I'm back. Now I'm gone again. Anyways, so your family is for lack of a better word, massive family.
Yeah, literally so big.
So a road trip for you guys isn't mom, dad, 2 kids. A road trip for you guys is 2 cargo vans and then some.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the 14-passenger, prison van. My sister and her husband, they drove their own car. I think my other sister, actually, she was there. Well, if she was there, she would have driven her own car.
Yeah, but the point is a road trip for you guys is a massive undertaking. It's not, the logistics involved is not what a normal American family would expect.
No, it's not like a spur of the moment. It was wow, this must have been planned out a lot, and it
Yeah.
was a lot went into it.
Okay. So you guys go on your first major family road trip.
Yeah, and then so we were at Bass Pro Shops in Vegas, and my littlest sister Anaya, probably 2 or 3 at the time, right?
Hmm.
So we're there and we're just shopping around, and her and Elena, who is probably like 5 at the time, they're asking like about all the animals because we've got all the stuffed animals around, and they're like, "Why aren't they moving? Are they toys?" And I was like, "No, they're just dead." And they're like, "Why are they dead?" And I was like, "Well, someone shot them and then stuffed them for decoration." And they're like, I could have sugarcoated it
You're
more.
you're so graceful with these kids. Nah, Bob out back shot him, put some stuffing in him. Now you got this. It's what
Yeah,
a great big sister you are.
it was some good stuff. I didn't want to lie to them. And so then they're starting to feel pretty bad for the animals. I'm like, oh shoot, I sort of opened a can of worms here. But there's this big giraffe that Anaya is just fixated on. She really likes the giraffe. And then she's like, we need to save it. And I was like, sorry, dude, like it's already dead. Like there's no saving this giraffe now. And but I was like, it's okay. Like we can just save the other giraffes. You know, like say bye to your giraffe. We're gonna head out.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna head out, and she freaks out, like flips her shit. And she never freaks out. She's a very like calm, easygoing, sweet kid, but she loses it because she wants to save the giraffe and she doesn't understand why it can't come with us. And I'm like, I'm sorry, we can't steal the giraffe. It's not going to fit in the car. And she's just really upset. I'm like, okay, like it's okay, and I'll go to Africa and I'll help save other giraffes. And so I just promised her like, we can't help this giraffe, but I'll save the other giraffes. And so we got her calm down a little bit and go into the car. And that really like started like in the moment I was just like, whatever, like I was planning on traveling anyway. I guess at some point I'm just gonna go volunteer in Africa. And then fast forward a little bit, I'm still thinking about it. I'm on Pinterest scrolling through a bunch of things, and this little quiz comes up. And it's like, where should you, it's like just a quiz and like, where should you volunteer with animals? And so I take the quiz, and boom, it pairs me with this reserve in Zimbabwe called Nakavango. And
That's an easy one to pronounce.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just sort of like forgot about it, and I went back to it a couple times, and then I was like, this would actually be really cool. Like, why not? Like, I not really planning on going to school in the fall because I want to travel. So why not start here? So I'm looking into it. It's not super expensive. It'd be super cool. And I'm like, well, I know I'm going to have nothing to do in October, so I'll just make that a goal. And so I sort of like tentatively planned for it, and then like working and start making money. And I'm like, this is 100% feasible.
Yeah.
So I pulled the trigger, I reserved my spot, and sort of just tell everyone, yeah, we're going to Africa. And I didn't want to go for just 2 weeks. I was like, might as well just go the whole month. So
So
so it stemmed from me not sugarcoating it for my little sister to me actually going across the world to work in an animal reserve so I could tell her that I helped save the giraffes.
so your 3-year-oldish sister was upset. So you said, hey, I'll do this, and then what? So you were like 19 at the time.
Yes.
19, and you got on a plane by yourself,
Yep.
flew to Africa, and worked at a wire. So you land in Africa. Is there somebody standing there for sign that says AnnElise, or is it like crap? How did that work out?
So I got there and we just like went to the lobby, and I thought there'd be people standing there with signs, and there wasn't really anyone. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just sit down over here. So I'm just like sitting down, and there's a couple other people sitting down, and we start talking, and we're all sitting and waiting for the same people, and we're like, okay, sweet.
All right.
I'm like, I'm with the right people. We're all just trying to get to know each other a little bit, but all still pretty awkward and uncomfortable. You know, we just flew to a foreign country.
Yeah.
And then our guide shows up, and we make it back to the reserve, and then it ended up being a great time. But yeah, I was definitely a little nervous as I boarded the plane. I can't remember where I had a layover. I don't know. I think maybe it was Ethiopia.
Let's
I
see.
don't know. But I was just like, just going around the airports by myself, realizing that I probably should have learned a couple other languages.
Yeah, right? Like how to say hello, I'm lost, where's the bathroom, give me a beer. I mean, these are the necessities when you're traveling.
Yeah. So luckily there was enough people speaking English that I could make myself get around the airports, and there was arrows and stuff. But
yeah, I think I left the country proper for the first time when I was like, I think I was 18 still, but I already been through, I was in the military, I'm a man, and I got to Turkey, and I was like, deer in the headlights, because they're like, you can't come in our country. I was like, what? They put me in confinement. They wouldn't let me go anywhere. They kicked me out of Turkey. I had to go back to Germany. Nobody knew where I was. I was losing it. I was freaking out as an 18-year-old. In case anybody ever really asks, no, man, I had it handled. It was a good time. I got where I needed to
be. Super confidently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. With flexing the whole time. Okay, so your month at this, I'm going to butcher the name, so I'm never going to say it. The month at this reserve, you didn't just work with giraffes. What was your month like there?
So I really went into it with not a really good idea of what it was. I did all the research I could, but still.
That's the best way to do everything. I go into every podcast not knowing what it's going to be. So
no expectations. Yeah. I'll just take whatever it is. So it's not like we were hands-on with the animals at all. Okay. The reserve is located between two national forests, and there's fence up to keep the poachers out, but the animals can come and go as they please. So it's really just some land where the animals are protected. They're totally wild. What we mostly did was upkeep the reserve so that it could exist and protect the animals. We would build the roads that we would drive through. We would count whatever animals we could see, take notes on their health. One of the big things we were doing there is counting and recording the oxpeckers. So they are these little birds on the back of the buffaloes.
Yeah.
But I guess one of the pesticides that they were using there was killing all the birds. So they had funding promised if they could prove that it was killing the birds. So we were just recording that so that they could get the funding to get research going for a new kind of pesticide so they could still save their crops and whatever, but not kill off an entire species. So we were doing that a lot and getting out, what was the word? Invasive species of plants. So it was really just a lot of labor and maintaining the reserve.
So you're counting birds and pulling weeds for a month.
Well, we weren't pulling the weeds. We were whacking them down with a machete. So
okay. Tomato, potato. My apologies.
We're counting the birds, whacking down bushes. The birds we really only did a couple times, but we were keeping an eye on all the other animals. And on Wednesdays, we would actually work at a local school.
Okay.
So it was a government-funded school, but the government didn't fund it at all.
That'll happen with most governments, to include our own, but we're not going to go down that route.
And Zimbabwe's political situation was not good at the time. I mean, it's still not good, but it definitely was very not good. So they got zero funding from the government. The teachers lived on site. They were just women who just lived there, and they didn't get paid or anything, but they would just teach the kids. So we would go and maintain their garden there so the kids could at least get one meal a day when they were at school. And
I was gonna say, what food do they garden there? Well, I mean, what grows in Africa? I just assume it's tumbleweed and weeds.
So how Africa, the climate is, you have, instead of the 4 seasons you have dry season and wet season. So in wet season, you get a lot of good plants. I was there at the very end of dry season.
Okay.
So naturally, nothing would really grow. I mean, you're going to have bushes and trees and all that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. But we had to haul buckets of water to pour on the plants that they would pull up from a well so that they could grow. They had tomatoes was the big one. We were trying to plant some fruit trees, but you just had to haul so much water for those. So they're probably doing great now.
So
But
Why did you not smuggle a couple of potatoes with you?
you cannot take produce to other countries.
I'm aware of this, but you could walk through security with like 2 potatoes, like, look, I'm from Idaho. It's my belief. You can't stop me. And they'd be like, oh, Idaho potato. Go ahead. You know. And
It's not like they didn't have food.
I know.
We actually ate really good when we were there. The food was so good. The spices they use are amazing. But the day-to-day food that they have, I don't even remember what it was called. It had a really unique foreign name that I couldn't pronounce when I was there. But it was like this starchy substance. It was probably like, I don't know, some kind of grain or potato or something. But it was white, and it was like Play-Doh or mashed potato consistency, and you would roll it into a ball and dip it in sauce, and you would eat it like with chicken.
Well, it is interesting how much, like, we eat all this processed food, fast food, hormone-injected food. So you go to another country and you eat food the way it's supposed to be ate, and it's just mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like, I was surprised that it was good. Like, even with, I mean, that sounds bad, but like, when you only have like a few things you can grow, when you are in like a really poor area and everyone's like growing their own food and they can only grow like a few different kinds of stuff, but their seasonings and spices still make it like pretty good for what it is. And so we were actually staying on the reserve. So we had our own garden there and we were able to grow a bunch of stuff. And so they would sell that to the other people in town and to just take it to the school and stuff like that. But for the most part, everyone there was just eating that little white Play-Doh-y substance and
I have to Google white Play-Doh-y substance Zimbabwe.
And meat, and it had some tomatoes and stuff.
Okay.
But it was really cool because they knew how to live off of the earth. It's not like they had to go to the store to find their food because, I mean, nature's all around and like you still have the plants. There was one point where the entire economy collapsed. Like there was no cash in the country. If you had American dollars, it was 50% off whatever you wanted. Like it was, they had to go to the next country over to get diesel. Or you stand in queue for like 8 hours and them still not having it. So like in the middle of my trip, they had that economic collapse. And so we started to experience a lot more of what the locals were, where like our salads became less lettuce that they grew and a lot more weeds and grass that they found.
So, man, so at 19, you of your own free will went and did this. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just assuming this was like a huge, because you did the week with me in Guatemala, which is, but then a month of living with the people kind of in their conditions, seeing the collapse of a nation at 19, it's invaluable experience.
Yeah, and it definitely was, and it really shaped how I see the world and just like my own privilege, because I did nothing to be born in the family I did or the country I did. And there's people in places, in situations that are much smarter than me, way more ingenuitive, and much more like worthy of whatever they would want in life. But because of their situations and where they're from, they have very little shot of ever getting it.
Right.
Just to see that is really like eye-opening, because it's like, okay, you do have these things, and well, yeah, I worked hard at my job, I earned the money. If I was somewhere else in the world, I could have worked twice as hard and still not have any opportunities.
Yeah.
So it really just ingrained a sense in me that like you have to give back and like you have to do everything you can to help other people, because you don't deserve what you have any more than they deserve what they do or don't have.
And you figured that out at 19 with this generation we have going on. That's mind-boggling to me, and that's why I applaud you so much. All right, so do you have anything else you want to add to Africa before we move on a little bit, or any huge takeaways from that experience? We can always circle back to it if you think of anything.
Africa was amazing. It was my first taste of real, I wouldn't want to say freedom, but I was on my own. Before, it's like I wasn't living with my parents for probably 6 or 9 months by the time I moved up to Atlanta. But then like I was still like in company apartments. I still had like all my coworkers and stuff. So being on my own, even though I was in a group of volunteers, but just like the traveling back and forth, like that was super impactful and definitely just like a turning point for me and an invaluable experience. Met a lot of really, really awesome people. And the work we did was actually impactful. I've gone on several like humanitarian trips since that I was like, okay, that was not as good. So yeah.
We can get into those too, yeah. I didn't know you've done more. So you've done more than just Africa for humanitarian stuff.
Well, I went to South Africa, so different country, same continent.
Yes. Oh, is that how that works? Is that? Thank you for educating us simple humans.
Not everyone knows that it's its own country. They could just think I'm talking about the south part of Africa.
Yeah, the Congo, the Sudan, Madagascar, where all the lemurs are. Yeah, that's South Africa. Totally.
So I went back there in, I don't even know, beginning of November last year. So that was just like a humanitarian trip through my job. So a bunch of we probably had like, I don't even know, we had several hundred people from the company that went and did that. And it was still a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed my time, but when it came to making an impact on the community, that was more than, because, you know, like in Guatemala, we focused a lot on helping them help themselves.
Yes.
And not being like the white saviors. So my South Africa trip didn't line up with that as much as I wanted it to. It's like, it was helpful. We built stuff that wasn't there before, but we could have just paid their builders to build it. And then they could have families and it would have helped stimulate the economy. Instead, we just went and took their jobs from them. So it was still a lot of fun. I learned a lot, but it definitely wasn't, as far as humanitarian work and helping people, it wasn't what I wanted at all.
Man, so you just made me think. I've never really thought about it that way. Like, so there's a huge difference between going and doing humanitarian work just for the greater good because the country can't afford it, and you're there on your own dime, your own fruition, doing this work, as opposed to humanitarian work where you could just send the money and they could have it. You know what I mean? So there's humanitarian work where you're doing it for the betterment, and then there's almost humanitarian work where you're doing it to make yourself feel better, like a pat on the back.
Yeah, and of course you feel better, and whatever it is that you're helping someone else, it's going to make you feel better. But like when we were in Guatemala, we were doing work that no one there was going to do.
Correct.
Because the organization we were with, they hired as many people locally as they could to give jobs, but there wasn't the money backing it up to pay them to do it. So we were creating a foundation for the organization to build on and be able to employ people that were there and help them learn trades and stuff. And so we were like the baseline of what they could get. Like, okay, if we can't get people here to help us, we're going to go have some people from the US come help us until we built this up big enough that we can help the people here help themselves. And South Africa trip, it was like, we're going to get all these people from upper middle class America to go to South Africa, build some roads, take pictures with the kids, and feel really good about themselves. But yeah, the paths will still be there in a couple of years. But as for actually helping the community to empower themselves, it wasn't there. And I think people get very confused. When you're looking at humanitarian work, there's a lot of volunteerism, where it's like you'll see that.
I like that. I've never heard volunteerism.
Write that down. It's a good word.
I don't
remember where I saw it one time. But especially when you're working with kids, like there's orphanages or schools that will kidnap the kids to put them there so that they can have the white tourists come and take pictures with them and teach them and take care of them. And it's all just money.
It's a dog and pony show to get money for the, man, that's wild.
Yeah, so that I'm always really careful to not work with kids because first off, you don't need to add to their attachment issues. You know, like if I'm going to go help a kid learn how to speak English for 2 weeks, what makes me more qualified than an actual teacher there who speaks their language and English?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you that. Man, that's so I'm still trying to wrap my brain because I've literally you've opened up my eyes to this. I've never thought of humanitarian work just to make myself feel good. I mean, I've never done much of it, and if you guys are listening and you don't know the backstory, I was not supposed to be the one going to Guatemala. I was a fill-in at the last minute. So, but man, that's so wild that I've never thought about that way, and it kind of pisses me off, to be honest. Like thinking if you're just, I'm not going to go to another country and do something and take a job away from somebody that could feed their family just to make myself feel good. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, do your research, be smart, pay attention, and if you're going to volunteer to do something like this, find a good company like the one from Zimbabwe, however you pronounce that.
Nakavongo.
Nakavongo?
Nakavongo. So
Nakavongo. Okay.
It's Nakavongo.
Man, I could just go on a rant about this right now. That's just wild. It seriously, it infuriates me to think that we take our American privilege and we go, oh, I feel bad for these people, and we go and we do this nonsense, but we're not really helping them. In some cases, we're probably hurting the economy, hurting the whole. Oh man, I'm fired up right now. Let's calm down. I'm calm down. All right.
Especially with Africa, because when you think of Africa, a lot of people think of, oh, that's where like all the poor Black kids are. Everyone's starving. Everyone's poor. You think about one picture where that vulture is like right next to that little kid. And
everybody's
on the brink of starvation, and you think of that, and you don't think of Africa as a beautiful place to go vacation and go tourist around. And the Western idea that we put on Africa has hurt the tourism more than anything else, because it is a gorgeous place to go vacation. You can go see all the waterfalls, all the plants and stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else in the world, and beautiful, bright, vibrant cultures. But because we only pay attention to the poverty that you find in places, we've destroyed the tourism economy.
I'll throw myself out there. I don't think of any country as a place to go and as a on a vacation. Every time I've been out of the country, it's been for work. So, Iraq is lovely this time of year. Let me tell you.
Sure.
But okay, so you've done multiple humanitarian. We can circle back to this if we have filler at the end, but you've also done just vacationing. I think you went to freaking Thailand.
Yes. So Thailand was actually much more recent. So that was right after South Africa.
Wait a minute. Okay, so that's more. So there's vacationing between South Africa and Thailand.
No, those were right next to each other, but there was trips between South Africa and Zimbabwe. Should we just keep it in chronological order?
Yeah, let's go chronological. So we skip vacationing. We jumped forward to South Africa. Let's go. We leave Zimbabwe, and then you go on an actual vacation first time, really, right?
Okay. So I leave Zimbabwe. I come home. I'm home for probably a week, and then I have a work-paid vacation to Cancun. So every year, my job will, if you hit certain numbers, you get an all-inclusive trip to Mexico.
Okay.
So went to Cancun. It was a ton of fun, and that was
it's Cancun. Of course, it's going to be fun. Yeah. I mean, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Abo Wabo shots. What else do you need to know? Okay.
So that was very minimal Mexican culture.
Yeah.
Just pina coladas and margaritas on the beach.
Yeah.
So just a fun time. Didn't really see too much of the culture. But then I come home, probably 1 or 2 weeks. I don't know. And then a girl I had met in Zimbabwe, Molly, while we were there, we were talking a little bit about going backpacking in Peru. So I was at first I was oh, that'd be so fun. And sort of just forgot about it. But then I was wait, actually, I'm not doing anything. Why not?
Why not? All right, continue. I'm sorry.
I've always wanted to go, so let's just go. And it's actually pretty last minute that I actually booked my flights. I had been planning on it tentatively, but probably 3 or 4 or 5 days before we left, I actually booked my flight to Peru. And then just a few days before that, I decided to go along to Colombia with her afterwards, which is not somewhere I had ever thought about going, you know. All I knew about Colombia was Pablo Escobar and cocaine.
Yeah, that's all you need, and coffee. I drink Colombian coffee every morning that I have specially shipped to me. So
I went on a coffee farm tour in Colombia. It was so good. We'll get to that though.
okay.
So then fly down to Peru, and I get there. I remember arriving there, and it was much more complicated because I was supposed to pull out cash before I got there, right? But then I didn't. And so I go and I put in my card to get cash, and I forget to get my card back out of the ATM. So it eats it.
Good for you.
Yes. I have my other credit card, because I had my travel credit card, and then I had my other one. Those were the only two I brought. So I lose the one, and then I have some cash, and I'm trying to get a taxi to the hostel that she's at. Now, my phone doesn't have any service, naturally, because I'm not in America. But the Wi-Fi at the airport only let you be on, it was either like 30 minutes or an hour. And I didn't realize how long it would take my bag. So by the time I'm getting a taxi and I'm going, I don't have any service to touch base with Molly. So I'm just like, all right, just take me to this place and I hope everything's fine. I think something else happened there. I think I lost my bag for a little bit and I had to find it. Oh, and I had this drug dog sniffing me, and then everyone was yelling at me in Spanish, and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? What's in my bag? And so they like opened my bag, and it was an apple, and I'm like, I thought I was gonna go to prison. I'm like thinking like, why would I have any drugs with me in Peru? But of course I'm like, what? I planted something on the airport, and it was just like an apple. But I thought I was gonna end up in Peruvian prison there for a second. So I make it back to the hostel, I check in, I still have no idea where Molly is.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I'm just gonna go to bed and hope I'm in the right place, right? And then I see her in her bed. I'm like, yes. So I wake her up, and I'm starving at this point. I didn't get any food in the airport because I figured me and her would get dinner when I got back. So I'm just so hungry, and we go to the little cafe bar, which was attached to the hostel, and it's like 1 or 2 in the morning, so naturally it's closed, which didn't occur to me at all. So
why is this cafe closed at 1 in the morning? Damn you, Peru.
I was just like, guys, I need food. You're not going to give me food? So I got some Lay's potato chips, which it was some knockoff brand. I think it was like called like Margarita, but it had the logo for Lay's.
I like it.
Copyright, don't care about. Yeah.
That's not important in other countries, yeah.
Not at all. And then I just got a beer, and their beers, they're actually like the giant ones.
Wait a minute. So you're 19 drinking beers?
It's true. It's true. Apparently in every other country in the entire world, 18 is the legal drinking age.
And it's phenomenal.
Straight playness in the US. It's like, you can go to war, but you can't drink.
That's another episode for another day, everybody. All right, so you get your margarita potato chips, you get your phenomenal Peruvian beer.
And then we go to bed and wake up in the morning. And right now we were in Lima.
Okay.
So we went out and explored the city. I think we were only there like 1 or 2 days before we went to Cusco. And there was this guy that worked at the hostel, and he like took us around, and we tried some ceviche, which was so good. It's just like raw fish all cut up, and there's lime and cilantro, and they serve it with sweet potato with it, which I've never had it with before. You should know about Peru. They've got over 5,000 kinds of potatoes. So
what?
Potato capital of the world.
Take that, Idaho.
I know. They have purple potatoes, all kinds. It's crazy.
Man, you guys are playing JV. Peru's varsity.
I know, and I had no idea.
Oh, wild.
So it was cool. We just lived it up there for a couple days. Went and took a surfing class. And so that was fun. And I was not as good as I thought. I thought I would just hop on the board and just be a natural.
Of course. Why not? Yeah, it's surfing. I mean, I like the beach. I like water. I've seen a wave. I can surf.
Exactly. Like, I've watched people surf on TV so many times. It's not even going to be a problem. All you have to do is
yeah, you just pop up real quick. Man,
yeah, I'm like, it looks so easy. Apparently, it's not that easy. But it was cool. He was a local, so he took us to some of the local bars and stuff, and we got a good taste for the culture. We went and checked out some really cute chocolate shops, but really we were just like, checking out the city a little bit.
Gotcha.
And then we went to Cusco.
Cusco.
So Lima is very modern. I mean, there was a Starbucks and McDonald's right next to the road, which is a terrible way to scale modernity, actually. But skyscrapers, cars, everything you could want in a city, it was there, you know? Enough people spoke English that you could get around if you didn't know it. And Peruvian Spanish is actually very easy. So by the first week and a half, I was catching on to it. I have like a little Spanish knowledge just because a lot of my friends are like Mexican. So I know a little bit of Spanish, and then Molly spoke full Spanish.
Yo comprendo. Yeah.
Sí. So then we go to Cusco, and you have a lot more of the preserved culture there.
Okay.
And it's much higher altitude. So like much higher. You're supposed to like acclimate there for like 3 or 4 days before you go on any hikes. And we're drinking a lot of like cocoa tea, which is like the leaf that they get cocaine out of. But instead of putting it in gasoline and all that fun stuff, you just boil it.
So you're drinking cocaine tea, not acclimated, and going for hikes? Is that where we're going?
And they told us, like, once you get back to the States, like, you're going to fail drug tests and all that fun stuff. But really,
So if you took a drug test, you just show them your visa or your passport, be like, look, man, I was in Colombia drinking the tea, brother. Or Peru, sorry.
I just didn't have anything to drug test for, so I wasn't worried about it.
Jesus. I didn't know you could drink cocaine tea. I'm going to write that one down, too.
Okay, so
All right, sorry.
So we went on a hike it's called the Salcantay Trail. So the Salcantay Mountains are a mountain range, and it was a 4-day, 4-night, 5-day hike from Cusco to Machu Picchu. It was their final destination. So while we were there, I mean, you're going really high up. We were going like 15,000 feet or something. So really high up. Even just in Cusco, it hurt to walk around. Like,
yeah,
like you had just ran a marathon, like your lungs are working so hard, and there's stairs everywhere. Like, I don't know what was up with the Incas. Maybe it's the fact that they lived on mountains, but they loved stairs. Everything was stairs. The roads were like so steep, and you had all the stairs going down, even just in Cusco. So me and Molly were walking around, and we're like, dude, is this as hard for you as it is for me? Because I know I'm out of shape, but she's like a hiker.
Yeah.
And so she's struggling too, so I'm like, okay, thank God.
Man, I hiked Long's Peak once in Colorado, and that's like, I think Long's Peak is like 15.5, 16.5. Mm-hmm. And I was in shape, and I was dying, let alone the fact that I wasn't acclimated drinking cocaine tea. So I can just imagine. Yeah, they're just, and it's
not quite as exciting as cocaine tea makes it sound.
Well, we're not going to say that. We're just going to leave it with you're drinking cocaine tea, because that's going to be the punchline for this podcast. AnnElise, cocaine tea. That's all people need to know.
What was more interesting than the tea is when we were hiking, you would get the leaves, and there was this kind of ash that they would use that worked as the catalyst to release whatever chemical is in it that gives you that burst of energy.
Oh, okay.
So you could either just roll the leaves up into a little bunch and stick them in your cheek, or you could get that ash, put it in the middle, roll it up, and then it works way better. And then
what do you do with this ash? So you roll it up, you put ash in the middle, then what do you do?
That's it. You just stick the little pocket in your cheek, and you just suck on it, and it.
So you're using cocaine like it's chewing tobacco at this point.
Pretty much, yes. And it's so funny, the guide.
I'm so happy with this interview right now. Can we just stop here and just call it? Because how do we top cocaine chewing tobacco?
Oh, well, I went to Colombia next.
Got it.
Sorry, Mom and Dad.
They don't listen to me. They're not on my subscription list, so we're good.
Oh, good.
Okay.
So the guide, it was so funny how he talked about it because he's like, this is like the natural way to use the cocoa leaf.
Okay.
He's like, instead of that like synthetic cocaine crap, because he thought like just how he talked about it was like cocaine was really like a natural fake way to do it.
Okay.
And this is like pure. And I was like, I'd always just thought of like cocaine as like its own thing and just like pure in itself, but no.
Yeah, it's just funny magical powder that people put up their noses and life gets better. I don't know though. I've never done it, so I can't say anything about it.
I am on that same page with you, Scotty.
There you go. We'll keep it that way.
So Peru is actually where all of those like cocoa leaves grow and stuff.
Okay.
And that's how the Incas survived. Like that was like their major export. It was very important to them and like borderline holy because without it they couldn't farm as much as they needed to survive. And yeah, it was their coffee.
Fair enough.
It was their coffee. And so we go on this trek, and the first day I'm like, it's actually like sort of easy. We're just walking around. Halfway into the first day, okay. We're like, oh, this is gonna be easy. And then we get to our camp, we set up camp, and we go hike up to this lake. That hike was way harder. Way harder.
So you set up, so you don't have a pack on. So you set up your camp and you just hike off without a pack.
We had mules carrying our packs, so
Cheater.
I know.
All right. Anyways, all right. So you walk up to the magical cocaine lake in Peru.
Exactly. And it was gorgeous. It was like so bright blue. I have a picture of it on my feed, and it looks super edited, which it was a little edited. But
make sure I get that picture, and we will make it the like main picture for the podcast.
I'll send it to you.
All right.
Okay. But it was super bright and gorgeous. We weren't allowed to touch it because that was the main water source for all the people that lived around it.
Okay.
But as we were like hiking up, I'm getting like super lightheaded, super nauseous, and I'm trying to like play it off like, I'm fine, guys.
Yeah.
We were only at Cusco.
Let me take these plugs out of my mouth. You're pulling like 4 things out, right?
I'm like, I just need new leaves. We were only in Cusco for like 1.5 or 2 days before the hike.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to be there like 3 or 4, but naturally I'm like, I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
A healthy 19-year-old, even though I didn't do any kind of hiking ever, and it's not like I was in great shape or anything. I gained like 10 or 15 pounds in Africa, which sounds a little backwards, but we ate a lot of carbs, and their bread was so good. The food was actually amazing. But so I'm like pretty out of shape, but still thinking that I'm going to be fine, and all the experts saying that you need to acclimate, I'm special, you know?
Yeah.
So we get up there, and there's this liquid called agua de Florida, which it's just a blend of essential oils, and it says like water of Florida. I don't even know. Like, we're in Peru. I don't know why they're talking about Florida, but it's this weird mixture of stuff that I actually threw up on the way to like the first part of the hike because the roads were really twisty. So he like gave it to me and maybe splashed my face. But it pretty much just like clears your head, helps with altitude sickness, nausea, whatever. And so he just keeps giving me that, and he's like, if you don't feel better tomorrow, we will need to send you back. I'm like, I feel great now, bro. Like, I'm not being sent back. And he's like worried I'm gonna die the next day or something. I was like, okay, it's gonna be fine. So at that point, I'm like, nobody can see that I am struggling here. So we make it up to my cat is over here.
Cat.
Yes.
Keep talking. I can hear you. I'm going to grab another drink because I'm out. But
so we finished the hike. I ended up taking a mule for part of it, which was actually really, really cool. And I'm glad I did that because it let me enjoy the scenery more than just looking at the ground and breathing really hard as I hike up.
That's not one drink, but sorry, Mom.
Well, we just won't let anyone's mom see this.
All right.
But yeah, so we're hiking and the views were incredible. In Idaho, we have a lot of mountains. So I didn't expect to be super impressed with the Peruvian mountains. I'm like, yeah, mountains are gorgeous. It was way more green than I had ever seen. The mountains were way, way bigger than I had ever seen. It was just incredible. There was one spot on the hike that has really like stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this mummy that was found from the Incas, and she's nicknamed, I don't remember what the actual name is, but she's nicknamed like the world's like most beautiful mummy because she was so perfectly preserved. So the story there is they would sacrifice, maybe it was every year, every couple of years, they'd sacrifice one of the kids to the god. So they would take him up to the top of this mountain and sacrifice him, and then that's where they found her hundreds of years later. So we're standing at not the peak, but pretty high up on this mountain on dry ground. We're looking at this beautiful lake, and he's telling us that 100 years before, that lake didn't exist, and we were higher up than that mummy was found because it all used to be straight ice. Just glaciers, ice caps everywhere. And the Incas could never get up as high as we did because it was impossible. And there we are just walking up the mountain, dry ground. This lake was formed by melting glaciers, and it was incredible, but also like disheartening to see the change of the landscape had endured in the past 100 years just because of, well, climate changing.
That'll happen. I mean, it's...
Yeah. And just like to see that with my own eyes and look around. Oh, you could also see the clouds below you at this point. We're like up top and over the distance, you like see the clouds and they're like under you. It was super cool. But just to see like, holy crap, this is a real thing. Like the Incas couldn't come here 100 years ago because nobody could make it up this mountain. And just to really see how not only has the landscape changed, but it's changed the life for the people around, where the people that were living there, a lot of them have had to migrate elsewhere as their water sources have been running out and all that fun stuff. So that was super important for me. And then, oh boy, we had so many great experiences. I should have reviewed my travel journal before this.
It's fine. This is good. I like the rawness of it and just whatever comes to mind. So it's good.
Yeah. And that was actually the trip where, I think that was the only trip where I really kept a good travel journal, was my Peru and Colombia trip. So I need to go back to doing that because I have a lot of like amazing experiences that I've pretty much like forgotten about. But then we go and we make it to Machu Picchu. Oh, and this entire time, so like these 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it was, Kimber, my older sister, is right on the brink of having my first nephew. So yeah, I'm like without Wi-Fi. And I think on the 3rd day we were someplace that was like, oh, in each stop, I mean, there's tons of people doing these hikes. So each stop we're like, we have our own spot, but there's other people camping and other backpackers and stuff. So it's not like alone in the mountains. But one of the last days, someone had Wi-Fi nearby. So I was able to log on to it and like check in with them. And they're like, oh yeah, he's going to be born soon. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. And then I lost internet. So then we get to Aguascalientes, which is the town at the base of Machu Picchu. So we're staying there, and now we're out of tents, we're in hostels. Oh, actually, back up the day before, so we were in tents the first 2 nights, second 2 nights we were in hostels. First night in hostels, we're all sleeping. Molly wakes me up in the middle of the night, and she's like, saying that something's in her bed. I'm like, okay. Like, she's like, got bit by a bug. I'm like, what the heck? Okay. But then I feel her arms, okay? Because it wasn't arm-shaped anymore. Like,
what other shape can an arm have?
Wavy. Bed bugs. Freaking bed bugs. And not like bug in the bed, like actual bed bugs. And she had a terrible reaction to them. So each bite was like this big. She had her eyes swollen shut. Her entire body was just warped. It was awful. So she hopped in the shower, and then she just came and hopped in bed with me. And then the next morning, we're all like, what do? We have bed bugs. We were all in this room. So in that room, it's me, her, and then 2 other girls. Cutest Dutch girls ever.
Ah.
They made me love all Dutch girls in the entire country. Now, whenever I travel, I just find Dutch girls, and then we just become friends. They're actually like the nicest people in the world. But so we're all there, and we're like, okay, it's fine. Like, we'll just shake out all of our stuff, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, just give it a good shake.
Yeah. Oh, and
bed bugs can't withstand the shaking force of a 19-year-old girl. It's a scientific fact.
So we think like, okay, it's foolproof, or it's at least the best we can do. So we find this massive bed bug in her bug to confirm that it wasn't just a fly, it was actually a bed bug, and the thing was freaking ginormous. And yeah.
Are we talking like the size of a thumb, like a fist?
Okay, it was like, let me see here.
Well, you got to be able to describe it too, because a lot of people just listen to the show; they don't watch the video.
Okay, well, I was just going to show you like on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So you got your notebook paper. You got the space between the lines. It's about 1.5 of those. Like, it was a pretty freaking big.
So it's about an inch big.
No, not an inch at all.
So it's like 42 feet.
Yes, it's 42 feet big. So it's just a massive bed bug, and we tell the people that run the hostel, and they're like, oh, no, like, you probably just left the window open and a bug came in, and Molly's like over there like dead.
Dying. Yeah, her arm looks like the freaking waves on the ocean.
It was really gross, and I felt so bad for her. And then the next day, we were going, this is a good story too. So the next day we were going to go zip lining, and Molly goes to the doctor instead, and they get her taken care of and give her some shots and stuff, and the rest of us go zip lining.
Yeah.
Now, I've been zip lining, okay?
You've been American zip lining?
Yes.
Okay.
And I went to zip lining in like the resort in Mexico.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest fears has always been like zip lining, but then you don't stop. You just like into the mountain.
There's a tree. Whack. Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm like, I've been zip lining enough times that I'm like, I've conquered the fear, blah, blah, blah. And I was actually like sort of underwhelmed by how undangerous zip lining is, because it feels like it's gonna be crazy and then it just stops you and you never get hurt, right?
Yeah, you're like, what? Yeah.
So we're going zip lining and we're not even really worried at all, and then they're telling us how to run this thing, and they give us all leather gloves. I'm like, what do I need leather gloves
hold on to it.
Yeah, and they're like, just hold on, the guy at the end is going to show you a sign. When it's red, put your hands on and stop yourself. I'm like, so if I don't stop myself, then I hit the mountain and I die.
Yeah, just
full
speed, full set.
Usually it's like, I have the comfort of knowing that they do everything they can to make it safe, otherwise you're going to get sued. But we're in Peru, everything's super unregulated.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, this is scary. What the fuck is going to happen? I might die. And so I'm like spitting down, and my body isn't staying straight either. I'm like spitting.
Yeah, you're going in circles, and
Yeah, I'm trying to like stay straight so I can like see the guy when he flips the sign, so I don't hit the mountain and die. And so yeah, it was really scary. I did not hit the mountain and die. I stopped myself every time. But the entire time it was very scary. I thought it was
sketchy at best, right? Yeah.
It was just sketchy. I'm like, everything was very wobbly, and I'm like, who built this? Like, they didn't even make us sign waivers. I'm like, okay, how many tourists have died on this? And probably doesn't even matter. Like, it would just draw more tourists. It was something so dangerous that people died. Yeah. So, it was a good time. Then we went back and got Molly. And then the next day, we were in Aguas Caliente. Okay, so then I'm like checking in every time we get Wi-Fi with my mom and my sister, seeing if Basha's been born yet. And it was that last night before. Oh, wait. Oh,
we're waiting. We're all waiting. She's thinking.
Okay. I will keep it in chronological order, right? So we go get dinner, and I like text in and I'm like, hey, how's everything going? And they're like, she had the baby. I'm like, sweet. Everyone I'm on the tour with, it was a pretty small group, so it was awesome. I think there was about 8 of us. So there was me, Molly, there was the 2 Dutch girls, there was a guy from Brazil he was probably like 40 something. He was super cool. And then there's this other guy who is younger, and he had been living in France for like half his life, but I think he was like English originally. So there was only a really small handful of us. And so we were all like getting really close. I mean, anytime you travel, you just meet people and you become best friends really fast.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really unique experience and a really unique way to build relationships. And so now they're all like equally invested in her having the baby. So my mom sends me a picture, and it is the worst picture ever. And everyone's like, oh my God, let me see. I'm like, this kid's ugly as shit.
Oh, it's an alien.
Yeah. And like, it was so bad because all you see is this fat little pudgy head and 2 black slits as the eyes. I'm like, oh guys, it's not loading.
It's buffering, guys. I lost it. Weird.
I figured because of my family's amazingly good-looking genetics, like he would be a good-looking kid. And he is now, but like that picture was the worst picture ever taken of him, and it was just so bad, so bad.
I've been through similar circumstances. You know, we deploy, and you'll be deployed, and somebody's wife will be, inevitably be pregnant, and 3 to 5 months into the deployment, she has the kid, and he's coming around like showing pictures. And this guy came around one time, so happy about his kid. He's like, "Look at my son." I was like,
Look at him.
Yeah, bro. That's a baby. All right, man.
You're a kid for sure.
Oh God, yeah. Can my wife get you some diapers or a bag for the baby's head? I don't know. Plastic preferably. I don't really mean plastic. I mean paper. But yeah,
but
no,
like,
it's
a level where it's like you can't even pretend to act like the kid's cute.
Yeah, it was hard to lie through my teeth on that one, and unfortunately, the kid still doesn't look any better. So,
see, Sebastian now is like super, super cute, so it's fine. It was just a terrible picture. But
yeah,
even in the moment, I couldn't pretend like he was cute.
Yeah, you're just like, good. Your screen just cracks.
Yeah,
Somebody's put an app on my phone that makes it look like my screen cracked. Who did this?
Yeah, it was bad. I've talked to Kimber about it since, and she agrees that the picture is really, really awful. She didn't know I was sent to me. So then he's born, and I am at the base of Machu Picchu. I mean, it's just some fish that was actually super good.
Yeah.
And then the next day we got to Machu Picchu.
Mm-hmm.
How it's set up on the tour is we have to walk down these train tracks unless we want to pay like $60 to actually ride the train. So we're walking down a couple miles on the train tracks, and you look up on the mountain, and a couple different spots you can actually see like the buildings, and so it was super cool. And so we finally get up there, and the tour is supposed to end like 12 or like 2, and then you like head back down, you like walk back down the train tracks, and they take you back to Cusco. Me and Molly wanted more time there, of course, so we just said like we'll get our own transportation and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And so we go up there, and we're just learning about the culture, and Machu Picchu was so incredible. And just how interactive it could be was way different than I expected. So like you get up there, and there's like a little restaurant and stuff, and then you go through these gates, and you're in the actual city of Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
But it's not like fenced off. It's not like you're like walking through this little guided spot, and you're like, hey, those are buildings over there. I can see some rocks. It's like you're walking through the city. You can touch the walls, go in the houses, and you can just touch everything. And you can get off the trail, you can go wherever you want. And so it was so, so cool. We got to see the buildings because I'm sure you've heard about it. Have you been to Peru yet?
No, I've never been to South America, actually.
That's super lame. You need to do that.
You have me beat on both South America and Africa, actually.
Oh, well, I've never been to Europe, so.
I got you there, and I love
there, many times. Or Middle East. I had a layover in the Middle East one time.
That doesn't count either.
Okay, too bad. But so everyone's heard of like the buildings in Machu Picchu where the stone is cut so precisely that it doesn't need anything to stick together.
Yes.
So those buildings are only like the holy buildings. So that's like their churches, which really are the entire religion is based, religion, wisdom, tradition, how they view the world, whatever you want to call it. It's based on like astronomy and the sun, the moon. So you'll have rocks jutting out of the sides of like their temples that line up perfectly to create shadows on like the winter and summer solstice. So it was so cool to see how advanced they were. Because when you think of like past civilizations, you think like hammer, like a piece of rock, and
Yeah.
everything's just very ancient, right?
I mean, I have a smartphone. I can't tell you when the summer solstice or the winter solstice is. I can't tell you when daylight savings time is. These people had it all figured out millions of years before that.
Yeah, and they had like a draining system in the city.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, like when it rained, everything was gathered into small little spots and disposed of off the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
They had angles cut to precisely 90 degrees.
Yeah, which is wild because they didn't have the technology or the tools really to do that, but they figured it out.
Oh, and they had this one spot where it was like a sundial, but tracked everything. I mean, it tracked the time, it tracked the stars, the moons, and it was just crazy how advanced they were and how much they understood that we still don't understand.
Yeah. Aliens.
Exactly.
Cocaine and aliens.
Yes.
That's all you need.
Yeah. Actually, after like my trip to Peru, I changed my major to anthropology.
Okay.
Like, it was so cool. So Machu Picchu is one of, I believe, 12 cities.
Yeah.
Or 12 cities that were like recorded or rumored about or whatever that they built to escape the Spanish and hide for them. So I think it took either 40 or 50 years to build, and then they were either there for 40 or 50 years before the Spanish came and like they disappeared or they wiped out. I don't remember all the details now, but they really weren't there long.
Yeah.
But out of those 12 cities that we believe exist, guess how many have been discovered?
Well, okay, so you believe 12 existed. I'm going to guess, I like the number 7, so I'm going with 7 just because I like that number.
3.
I'm going to stick with 7.
Only 3 have been discovered. And 90% of the jungle that Machu Picchu is in has been
under. So where do they pull the number 12 from? If they've discovered 3, what makes you think that there's 12 cities?
Probably just writings and stories. And
oh, yeah, all right.
Oh, yeah.
You and your books and your facts.
I know. Imagine if we still like based our beliefs or anything off of a book from 2,000 years ago.
Oh, God. Well, America wasn't here 2,000 years ago, so that's not going to happen.
I was joking about the Bible, though.
Oh, the Bible. I've heard of that book. It's a good book.
Yeah, it's like we still base like a lot of like American culture and just modern day stuff off of stories and ideas from thousands of years ago. So naturally,
I don't want to go too far down that road. I don't.
No, but I was just drawing the parallel where it's like a lot of the beliefs and stuff do stem from thousands of years ago. Okay. And so it's believed that there were 12 cities.
Okay.
And I think it was recorded in like some book or like on some wall or something. That's where they got the info from.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you now. I'm on the same train of thought with you.
Okay. And so there's one part of Machu Picchu that we went to, and I don't remember what the official name is. They had a door blocking it off, but you could look out, and we're like on this side of a mountain, just like walking around, and there are floating steps. So there's the gate that blocks us, so we can't go any farther and walk around. But then past it, you still have this trail, which is just rocks jutting out the side of the mountain, and there's steps that are floating and coming up, so you could climb up the mountain, which is literally like straight up and down, using these floating steps that are jutting out of the mountain and hop on this trail. Okay. And then those steps sort of just disappear into the jungle.
Huh.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, nobody thought to take away those trees and look at where it goes?
There's got to be something in there if these stairs are going there.
Yeah, but it's just, I was just mind blown because seriously, like 90% of that jungle is undiscovered because it's so dense, so thick. And I mean, it takes money to do anything. So there's still so much to see, but of course nature reclaims everything. So it was just, it blew my mind. Everything to do with the Inca people, the Inca culture just blew my mind. Yeah. And then after that, we were going on a tour to see like I don't remember what it's called, like the salt mines, and I want to say like Morte or Mortar, I don't know. But this one area where it's super cool and it's like culturally important.
Yeah, I know I was somewhere important. That's how most of my stories go. I know I was somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, we were gonna go to these places that you always go when you go to Peru, blah, 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 blah. We end up either booking or being put on the wrong tour.
Okay.
And this was after Machu Picchu and everything. So then we're on this other tour and we're just seeing some other old Incan civilizations. And we just were at Machu Picchu, you know, we're not impressed anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
I've seen Machu Picchu. This is beneath.
Yeah, it's like if we saw it before, then it's like we'd be a little more impressed. But half the time we're just trying to figure out like why the heck are we here? Did we book the wrong thing? Did they put us on the wrong thing? I'm trying to like explain to the bus driver that we're at the wrong place. And this entire tour, it's only old white people on our bus.
Heaven forbid, old white people.
No, it's like an old person tour though. They're taking us to stores. They're trying to sell us things. I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to learn about the culture and see some cool shit. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to buy your jewelry that I could get down the road for 15th of the price, you know?
Yeah.
But there was one cool place we went, and it was called Ollantaytambo.
Okay.
So that was probably my favorite part in Peru, honestly. So we're in this little town, and we're on a mountain across from another mountain. On the far mountain, there's like, it's
I can giant. Still hear you. I'll be right back.
Okay. It's giant, but you can see that there's like a face in the mountain that they have like carved out. And then also they have like their prison on the mountain, which you can still see how that's set up. So the city that we're at on the mountain across from the other mountain, it all perfectly lines up with different angles from the mountain that is miles away. So just the fact that they were able to like line stuff up perfectly was super impressive. But then we went to this one spot, and also the guide didn't speak any English. Okay, no, what it was is there was old white people, and then there were old like Peruvian people. So I don't know why the guy didn't speak English, but Molly's trying to translate for me. And he's saying that like, we're at this little opening, okay? It's like a doorway, and there's a spot in front of it where they would sacrifice their alpacas. And I guess at that spot, and it also has like some rocks jutting out next to it that line up on the winter and summer solstice. But that was an incredibly important and holy spot for them where they would sacrifice the alpacas. But what he was getting at was the point of it was they were studying and learning from the moon and stars to control it. Almost to like pass through time to learn how to speed it up and slow it down. And then he started talking about like different dimensions, and I'm just mind blown at this point. And so it was just really, really cool that they were even that advanced. But then we go down the city a little farther, and there are these giant megaliths, like 6 giant stones just popped up at the top of this little town. And each one was representing the planets that they knew at the time. So there's still these really old carvings in it, and you can sort of like make out like different like patterns and geometric shapes. But just to express how big these rocks are. So above ground, it's probably like 20 feet, right?
Okay.
So I don't know exactly how much has to be buried for it to stay standing upright. But I remember in high school, we had like these wooden fences around our pastures. So whenever they would need replaced, we had to dig it up. And to bury a new one, a third of the wood had to be underground. Otherwise, it couldn't stay upright. And that was just for like wood that probably is like 5 feet above ground. And these are giant stone rocks that also were from a neighboring mountain. So they're probably like really 50 feet tall or more that they had to pull up the mountain, take all the way up there, and then they just have them lined up for important spiritual significance. And just the fact that they would do that it was so important that they would do it, is amazing. But the fact that they could do it,
yeah,
like, that's what's really incredible.
It's you're telling all these amazing stories, and it's just making me think over and over again. 99% of my travels outside the United States have been work related, not any type of educational related. So I'm just thinking, how much have I missed with all of my travels?
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in Europe and I got to go and see some cool stuff, but I never really immersed myself in the culture because I was too busy with work.
Yeah.
And but I'm sorry, I just had to interject that real quick because it was on my mind and I wanted to say it before I forgot it. And I'm sure I'll circle back to it later, but
That's like the crazy part too, because I always try to like, when I am traveling, unless I'm at an all-inclusive resort in Mexico, it's about learning about the culture and about traveling and like immersing yourself in it, and not so much vacationing for me. So I'm either there volunteering, which is just another way to immerse yourself in the culture really, while also like giving back a bit, or traveling in a really like educational way.
and it's so incredible to me that you think that way. Like you point to me at 21 and say, go travel and get education about it. And I'm like, nope. And I think a lot of people nowadays, they don't travel for the education of it. And you're doing these things and you're learning, and the fact that you can still recall it all. You ask me something that I did 6 days ago, I'm not going to be able to tell you what the heck I did, but that's because the old C words. No, it blows my mind. You have such vivid memories from a trip to Peru, 3-ish years ago. I couldn't tell you where I was 3 years ago. Let's see. We're in 2020. I was in Iraq 3 years ago, actually. So yeah, I could tell you a little bit about that one. But sorry.
But that was so fun.
Yeah, when I was in Iraq, I wasn't doing anything to like, oh, let's learn about the culture. I was definitely not my mindset. But I love listening to you, and I can listen all day, and I'm going to have you continue in a second. I just wanted to add all that in there, that you currently, you are already at my longest podcast, and you've barely scratched the surface of your travels. And I'm not going to stop you. Let's keep going. I love it. This is phenomenal. I've already pushed. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll do what?
Episode. I said we'll just make a series.
I mean, had I known it was going to be this in depth, I probably would have asked you to do multiples. So, I mean, do you want to do another one? We can wrap up this story, getting back through Colombia, and then we can do this again next week and talk about where you went after Colombia if you want to. I don't know how much time you have or don't have.
I'm trying to think, because we're at Peru right now, and then there's Colombia, Guadalajara. I went there twice, but only once was really like cultural immersion. The other one was there for like 2 or 3 days, and it was really fast. And then after South Africa, I went to Thailand. Oh, also somewhere in there, I went to Aruba. So I guess we could do another episode. If we do though, we should include Colombia in it, because I can go off on that one for a while.
All right, well then this will be, you have so many firsts. All right, so you're my first youngest, you're my longest podcast, you're my first 2-parter podcast, and
I get it.
I'm going to throw another one at you, so you're my first. So next week, let's do this again next Sunday.
Okay.
I want you to be thinking I want somebody who has a hobby, a small business, or just a world traveler who's very interesting, that you find interesting, that I can track down and try to get on my show.
All right, I'll find someone. I can't do next Sunday though, because I will be in Tampa.
No worries. Then we can. Oh, heaven forbid, Tampa.
Oh no.
But all right, so do you have anything else to wrap up on Peru before we go too much further?
I got a couple more things.
Let's finish out Peru, and then we'll close it out for the day.
Okay. So honestly, those megaliths were just so freaking impressive. Even that they could take, like, just that they had them there, that they could have them there, it was all really, really cool. And so we wrap that up. We get back to Cusco. And then I think we had a couple days in Cusco before we went to Lima, right? And so there's this night market that happens certain days. I don't remember the details. But so we go out to this market and we can't find it, but we stumble upon like this really like local area. Because wherever you go, it's always pretty separated. You've got the tourist areas and you've got the local areas.
Okay.
And so in Peru, there was a lot less of that in Cusco specifically, but we stumbled upon like the tourist area and it was so, so cool. So out there you have everyone like selling stuff, but it's not touristy stuff. They're selling it to like the locals. You have like your hats, you have all the stuff that the locals would wear. So you have like your cool like traditional clothing, but then you also have like your knockoff Nike stuff and all the knockoff.
Yeah. I'm the knockoff guy.
And of course, all of the cars have the giant like Nike logos or Apple logos.
Mm-hmm.
I always find like third world countries, they always just have the most American logos. I think it's just like a status symbol or something.
Yeah.
But so then we go to this little market and everyone's like playing games on the street. And it was just really, really cool to see. And then the next day we're at another market and they're playing music. We have girls dancing in their beautiful traditional Peruvian clothing. Oh, I totally forgot to tell you about when I got bed bugs. Okay, so we're gonna back up now.
Back in time, okay.
Back in time. We had those 4 nights on the hike. The third one, Molly got bed bugs. The fourth one, this is in Aguas Caliente.
Yeah, your second hostel, correct?
Second hostel, yes. Okay. And this was right before I went up to Machu Picchu. So I wake up and I'm like scratching my legs and then Molly's like, oh, like you got a lot of bites. And I was like, yeah, mosquitoes were crazy yesterday. And then we're like getting dressed and she's like, what is that? Like on my back. I'm like, what do you mean? So we look and I have, I'm getting like the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. But bed bug bites all over my back, all over my legs. And now that we're actually looking at them and paying attention, you can see the tracks.
Yeah.
They're always in a line. It's not like they just bite you. They're like walking around, bite, okay, bite, bite, bite. It's in lines and it's just disgusting and so itchy and it just feels so invasive and so gross. Like the nastiest thing in the entire world. Terrible. And then one other girl she got into. So me and Molly ended up finding the only place in town that had hot water to clean stuff, and we took all of our stuff there, and we didn't have it anymore. But getting bed bugs at all was the most disgusting experience I've ever had. Like it was just so gross and violating and super not cool. I just thought about it because I remember at that market that we were just talking about, the guy, I wish I could remember his name. I have it written down. It started with a C. And he was from Brazil, but no, he wasn't from Brazil. He was from Chile. What am I even talking about? He was from Chile.
What are you talking about?
And I had like, my shirt was like sort of off my shoulder. So I remember him asking Molly, like, what's on her back? Cause I was just covered in the bed bugs. It was super gross.
Yeah.
But we go to the market, and then we're like wrapping up our time in Cusco. And so we go to the airport to fly back. And I hate waiting at the airport. I hate showing up a couple hours early and
I love it.
Hours. No. And I hate when everyone's like standing in line that long. It's like, it's easy to see when the line's ending and okay, I can just hop on. Like now it's ending, like let me hop on the plane.
Yeah.
I don't like standing in the line for 20 minutes. Molly is the opposite.
Oh, jeez.
Molly's very like, let's plan this, let's be on time. And I'm like, let's just do whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we really balance each other out there. But I convinced her like, hey, it's fine. Like, let's just sit down. We'll just wait. We can see the line. When it gets closer to being empty, like we'll hop in it, right?
Yeah.
So the line goes from being very short, very long to pretty short, pretty quickly. So we get up there. Turns out they canceled our flight.
Oh.
So now we have to go back and like get a different flight. Naturally, and I totally deserve it. She's a little bit frustrated. She wanted to stand in line, and we've been sitting down for like 20, 30 minutes past when everyone else found out that the flight was canceled. So we have to go stand in the regular line, and as happens in third world countries, nothing is quite on time. And
what?
So we're in line for hours. I mean, like 2 or 3 hours before we even talk to the person at the desk to reschedule the flight. And there are like 0 flights. And even to get a flight the next day is super expensive. And we're like, we don't know what to do. We have an Airbnb booked in Lima the next night for Molly's birthday. And that was our little like splurge, getting an Airbnb. We got a rooftop pool. We were really excited about it. And we're like, what the heck are we going to do? So we spend the entire day in the airport. And then after being there for hours, we're able to get on a flight. I guess someone had backed out and we ended up paying like double for it. So we get all that figured out. We get into Lima. We get into our Airbnb. It's some good stuff. Our friend from Chile, he was in Lima that night too. So he came and met up with us for Molly's birthday. And then we go out to get, me and Molly go out to get ingredients for dinner because we're going to make ceviche. But the market we go to, also, we were in like a much sketchier area than we previously thought. So like walking back from the market to the Airbnb, we're like, yeah, they said it was so safe. This does not feel so safe. But anyway, we go to the market. They don't have anything we need.
Well, why would the market have what you need? It's a third world country.
I was like, guys, ceviche is like your national dish. What do you mean you don't have lime or cilantro or any of the stuff that belongs in it?
I've never even heard of any of those ingredients.
So we just get some fish. We get some ají sauce, which is just the kind of sauce they have down there, AJI, and it's pretty good. We get some other vegetables, and we're like, okay, I guess like we're just gonna have to make something work here.
Where are you cooking this food at?
The Airbnb. So we have a kitchen there.
Okay. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I've never done an Airbnb, so I'm not that fancy.
Like a house or apartment that they rent out.
Yes, I know what it is, but I've never done one, so I don't know what to expect.
You're just in an apartment. So it's like a 2-bedroom apartment and it's got a kitchen.
Gotcha.
So we make dinner, and then the next day, our friend from Chile, it's really bugging me. I can't remember his name. I'm going to have to look it up.
Well, we will give him proper accolades in the next episode, and we will tag him his Instagram or something in the next episode.
Good.
Okay.
So then the next morning we wake up and it's Molly's birthday. So we start the day off with some mimosas, which was cheap champagne that we found, and they didn't have any real orange juice, so it was very cheap.
So champagne and water?
Pretty much.
Like, did you find like some orange soda and just dump that into champagne?
Pretty much, but without the bubbles.
Yeah. Oh, so, God.
After a couple bottles of mimosas, we go down to go surfing. Also, at some point, I'm like popping open one of the bottles on the balcony, and it goes in the car, so that was super funny. I got it all on video, and like it sounds so loud when it hits it.
I need that video also then.
Okay, I will send it. So we go surfing, and I didn't know that there's a difference in the size of surfboards and the difficulty levels. So when they give me one, it's a lot smaller than the one I had been on before. Which means
larger is going to give you more of a platform, more of a base. It's going to have more buoyancy.
Yes. So this is my second time surfing. We aren't doing any lessons this time. Yeah. And we're also like pretty tipsy off of a couple bottles of mimosas.
Fake mimosas.
Yes.
All right.
And so we're trying to surf, and she's having an easier time than I am. And I'm just like in the ocean, like, what the fuck am I doing here? But having so much fun. And the beach in Lima is incredible.
Yeah?
Not the actual beach. I mean, there's no sand. It's all like pretty pointy rocks. But how it's set up, you've got the ocean, you've got a little highway, and then you have a cliff. Right here, that's where all the city is. Yeah. So when we're in the ocean, we're looking up to a cliff with the entire city on it. So it's a beautiful view, an amazing view off the coastline.
Well, let me stop you. Everybody knows what the fucking beaches. Yeah, I dropped the F-bomb. Everybody knows what the beaches in Lima look like. You're not that cultured, AnnElise, all right? It's.
Oh, really? Do you know where Peru is on the map?
Where? What is?
Peru is on the map, Scotty?
Yes, it's so if you're looking at South America, it's on the western side. You got Brazil up here. Peru is this long, narrow strip of land that has the map. It's on the west side, on the Pacific side.
Mm-hmm.
I only know this because I have a good friend who came from Peru many, many, many years ago before I even joined the military. His name is George.
Oh,
Don't know his last name, but I used to talk to him. He worked with my mom, and I would talk to him on the phone. I was in Spanish one, so I would call to talk to my mom after getting home from school, and
yeah,
George would always answer, and I'd be like, George! And I would just say whatever broken Spanish I could.
yeah.
And I didn't care how it went. Like, hablo español como niño de 2 años. La biblioteca es muy grande and el negro gato en los pantalones es super cante. You know, I would just
whatever words you knew.
yeah. The library is on fire and the black cat in my pants is very spicy. I didn't care. I just whatever I could, and he ate it up. But so yeah, I know where Peru is. I know where Lima is. I know that Peru is a very mountainous country that also has beautiful coastal beaches. But I'm more cultured than 13% of my listeners. So
I didn't really know where anywhere that I've been is until I went. So
you get there and you're like, can I get an atlas? Oh shit, that's where I am.
yeah.
That's a bold strategy. We can talk. Oh God, I love that strategy.
Or it's like until I start like researching it to go somewhere, but no, I didn't. I thought Colombia was on like the very far side. I thought Colombia was like on the other side of Brazil.
No,
so, yeah.
Colombia is like okay. Anyways.
Idaho is 49th in education, and geography was barely touched on. We had to take that one like mandated test or whatever, but we had a map on the wall that was labeled the whole time.
I'm from Georgia, which is 52nd out of 50 states. Figure that out.
Puerto Rico.
They beat us. Puerto Rico and some third world nation, probably freaking Peru, beat us. So.
That's so funny.
Anyways.
But yes, the beaches were really awesome. And then our friend from Chile stayed the night with us, and he made us dinner.
What?
So, like with whole fish. Like there was just whole fish, and he stuffed it with a bunch of stuff and made it really delicious. And it was just a traditional Chilean dish, and it was really fun. And I think, and then that night. So it's still Molly's birthday, and we go out to a club. So there's this one district in Lima that is nicknamed like, I don't know if it's a park or a district, but it's nicknamed after cats because there's just a ton of cats. So we're walking through the park. I'm like, why the heck are there so many cats out here? And then she tells me that that part of Lima is just known for having so many cats. I don't know. So there's a lot of cats. But then we go to the club, and we're having a great time. There's not a ton of people, but there's strobe lights, and we're just having a great time, right? And then we get back. And at some point, I realize I don't have my phone anymore. And we are leaving to Colombia the next day. So we call the club. They didn't find my phone. We search all around. It's not there. So there's a couple people I was dancing with, and I'm pretty sure one of them just snatched it. Because I had my fanny pack.
You had the fanny pack?
Actually, did I have a fanny pack for that trip?
Yeah, they're rocking like the fanny pack, like, look at my fanny pack.
No, I got the fanny pack for South Africa, so I didn't have it on that trip. I had some sort of bag or something that I was keeping my phone in.
So you have like a little clutch, like a little tiny strap, a little,
Yeah, but habit is I put my phone in my back pocket.
That'll happen.
Yes, so my phone kept going in my back pocket and somehow got stolen, and then it is very difficult to get your phone replaced when you're in a third world country and you're only going to be there for 6 more hours. So I'm like, okay, it's fine. There was like, I don't know if I was with Sprint or Verizon or whoever at the time, but they had stores there, and I was going to go get one, but we didn't have time. And I was like, whatever. Colombia is going to have the same sort of stuff. I'll just replace my phone when I'm there.
Totally.
Yeah. And then we get to Colombia, and I won't get into that too much until the next one. But anyway, They don't have the store I was looking for. I cannot get my phone replaced. End up just having to buy this like podunk little knockoff Samsung.
Yeah, you got a burner phone. You're in Colombia with a burner phone after putting tons of cocaine leaves in your mouth in Peru.
Yes.
I see where this is going.
Oh, yeah.
You're a mule. You're nothing but a mule at this point.
I didn't get paid. So that new phone was a Galaxy J5. J.
Oh, the J5? Oh, I have a J5 still. It's right here. Check it out, J5.
See, like in the US, we're used to the Galaxy S, whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what the J's were. It was a total knockoff. And I have very few pictures of Colombia because the camera was just impossible. But yeah, to wrap up Peru, I went. I learned a ton about the culture. It was my first.
Oh, God, I just lost service.
We weren't with a group. We were just doing whatever we wanted to do. It was super just traveling by the seat of our pants. I mean, we got into Cusco, like we landed at the airport with no hotel reservations. We met a backpacker there and said, hey, what hostel are you going to? And we just went to the one he went to.
My
So
gosh.
that's pretty much how the whole trip where it was like planning everything very last minute and just doing whatever was fun at the time. Learned so much more about the culture than I ever imagined. Made amazing friends from other parts of the globe and learning about how life works in their countries and stuff too. Because whenever you're traveling, it's not like you travel somewhere and you only learn about that country. You meet so many people that from other parts of the world that you learn about their cultures too. And it was just a really, really cool experience. And then we went to Colombia, and we'll have to get to that next week.
God, that's so wild. Like, so, yeah, let me see if I can wrap this up in my mind. So, at the age of 19, you've been in 3 continents. When I was 19, I've been in 2 continents. You've been to multiple countries. I've been to, I guess, 3 when I was 19. You had the fortitude to just fly somewhere without a plan of where you were staying and say, where's a hostel? Which I've never been to a hostel. I've never gone somewhere without knowing where I was going to sleep. To an extent, I'm not. That's, anyways. But Jesus, at 19, you did more than I feel like I've accomplished travel-wise at 33, which is just mind-blowing. And you did it all on your own dime, of your own fruition, just working your butt off to get to where you did. You know what I mean? You did humanitarian and fun travel, all on your own accord. It's just incredible. I'm so excited to continue this conversation next week or whenever it continues. You know, the AnnElise Odyssey continues at part 2. God knows if we'll go to a part 3. We'll figure this out. It may become its own mini-series. I don't know.
That would be fun. This makes me want to quit my job and travel.
Right? You should do it, and then just call me once a week, and we'll talk about where you've been. If I can get subscribers, you know, I'll call Joe Rogan. You know, he's a good friend of mine. I'll give him a call after the show. He'll send us some cash. But no, AnnElise, seriously, thank you for the great conversation. Thank you for taking, about an hour and 40 minutes out of your day to talk with us just about the first part of your travel experiences. I look forward so much to continuing this and just seeing where we go from here. Real quick, I like to do, like, if you have shout outs at the end of an episode, anything we've covered, the Zimbabwe people, anybody that you want to do a shout out to, anything you want to plug, your own Instagram, your own Facebook, if you want to plug any of that.
Yeah, definitely follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, go ahead and plug that right now.
Okay, so it's AnnElise __C. So that's spelled ANNELISE, and then 2 underscores, and then the letter C. And then you can follow me on my travels on there. And then Zimbabwe is really what lit the fire for me to travel so much. I met some really awesome people there. You can see Taz, my cat, playing with the camera. Somali, she's the one I traveled with. Caleb, he was a guy I met there from Boston.
And I almost started a travel vlog or a travel blog because he was blogging and I really wanted to get into that. I totally should have. I don't remember why I didn't. I think it was something with the internet connection.
It'll happen.
Yeah,
Thank you, Taz. Taz agrees. The internet.
Yeah. And then Mia, she's from Australia. She was so much fun. And then I guess everyone else there was just incredible. But when I was there and talking about starting a blog, one of the big things that we were all joking about was, and it went along with the name, like 6 countries in 6 months. I was like, hey, that'd be cool. So just
That's
like
easy.
around the idea. And then I ended up doing it. And so in the next 6 months, including Zimbabwe, and I did a day trip to Zambia while I was there, I was able to hit 6 countries. And if it weren't for those people encouraging me and really like lighting that fire for me to do it, then I don't think I would have ended up traveling as much that year or in the future. So honestly, anyone I've met on my travels, like there hasn't been a single person that I've met that hasn't impacted me in some sort of way, whether we've talked about them or not. Because while we've been talking, I've been thinking about like 15 or 20 people that were really impactful, but to get into each of their stories would take this way, way too long.
Well, if so, you know, I try to track, you know, listeners the best I can. If this is something that starts growing and people, if you're listening, if you want to know more about these individual people's stories, let us know. We'll share them and we can go way more in depth.
To them.
I've had so much fun with this episode.
Me too. It's been so much fun to just remember all the fun that I have had and how it's made me like grow and develop as a person.
Yes. And it is, for those of you who are listening who have never been, you know, outside of the States, if you've never traveled, and I hate using the word third world country, but it is a thing, third world country. Go out and see other places. Go see how the other half lives and try to do your best to make sure it's either a proper vacation or it's doing proper humanitarian work, not a volunteerism.
The really important thing with even like calling it a third world country, it's like when you go there, you don't want to be prejudiced and think like, oh, these people are poor, I'm better than them, or I'm in a better situation or whatever. Because what I saw in those places, it was just people who adapted to a different way of living. And they were a lot of them were way happier and way more centered and grounded than people that I know from the US who have way more privilege and opportunities, money, whatever it is. So it's not like they're lower than us. It's not like we're first world and they're third world and we're better because one is better than 3. It's not like that. It's just people in different parts of the world live differently and their cultures are different, the beliefs are different. And of course, they're going to be completely different than us. And seeing that, learning it, and internalizing it, for anyone that's willing to do that, like it will change them and shape them and the rest of their lives. And I think it's so important for everyone to leave the country.
On that, I mean, I can't say it any better. AnnElise, do you want to say any goodbyes before I close this out real quick?
Thank you all for watching. It's been great to get into this, and I'm so excited to be able to share those stories and even more with you guys. It's been such an amazing experience that I've been able to be a part of and to be able to share that with everyone listening and just to give you like a part of myself, because I love traveling, but of course you're not going to go into your travel stories every time you talk to someone. So it's really exciting to be able to get into that and share it with you all. So thanks for tuning in and stay tuned for part 2.
There you go. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, I love meeting people like you. You've done so much at such a young age. If you guys want to know more about AnnElise, you can follow her on her Instagram. I'll put a link in the comments below. Once again, I have my own Instagram. Enter the Scottyverse. The link's below. Tune in. I mean, me and AnnElise will do another one of these real soon, so that way we can get the Odyssey that is AnnElise out there, part 2. Thanks for stopping by. This was Enter the Scottyverse interviews, and I look forward to doing this again. Bye, everybody.
Catch you on the flip side.